Welcome to the Unobstructed Podcast, the podcast that breaks the division between business and culture. And now, your hosts, Colin, Finkle, and Edward Cervantes.
Anyway, how's your week going?
It's good. It's busy as always, but I can't complain. Honestly, the weather helps out. So the sunny days obviously make the days go by quicker.
Yeah.
As long as the weather keeps up like this, my days obviously end up being a lot better than most. I'm not looking forward to it because summer's almost to an end. Really, once like Labor Day hits, that's normally the decline for me.
Yeah, I mean, I always think September is more of a summer month than not a summer month, but it's still hard to get out of that school mentality where it's like it's coming to an end. Summer is coming to an end. You see the back to school shopping, all of that stuff.
That's what hits me. It's like it's like everybody's coming back to school, back to chaos and traffic and all that stuff. It's like, yay.
Yeah, I find exactly. The traffic does make a big difference. I have been sailing into work because without the traffic. And I think it's half is that a lot of people are on vacation, and then half is that people like the buses and the cars driving kids to school are off the roads. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it plays a huge difference. Honestly, you'd be surprised for even those like single parents that don't have kids. Like having the summer with students off and no school makes a huge difference. Your commute's better. There's just less chaos on the road.
Yeah, I find expectations are a little lighter. Like clients are on vacation, all that stuff. So
exactly, a lot of things.
Pace of things goes a little down in July and August.
Yeah, and then it picks up like crazy come the fall.
Mm. Yep.
Anywho, so obviously for today, we're going to talk about artificial intelligence, AI, machine learning, and
the death of humanity and the extinction of the human race.
Yeah, I didn't want to start off a conversation like that, but yeah, that's a good summary of the video. We're done the call. That's pretty
exactly. We've birthed the new generation of life forms that are going to inherit the earth.
Exactly.
They'll be really good at poker, as we'll talk about later.
So in preparation for all the articles that we read in preparation for today, it got me thinking, and I was going to ask you this question. When was the first time that you were like, bombarded with not necessarily artificial intelligence, but some sort of machine learning app or program, and you were really blown away and you were like, wow, this is at the time you don't think this is the beginning of the end, but this is the beginning of new revolutionary stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess there's two answers to that question. One is the thing that was happening in the background that I don't think anybody took appreciation of was the social media news feeds being powered by AI. I think before people didn't know that there's a algorithm on the back end that's constantly learning about your preferences and then feeding you the top thing that they think you would engage with the most. Since you've logged in last. But no one realizes that's AI. The one where I knew legitimately it was AI, and I can't remember the name of it. I'll put it in the show notes and in the video feed. But it was a interpreter, like a thing that would take audio files and make them into text,
Oh wow!
Yeah, and but where it gets crazy is that, and I'm actually planning on using it for these conversations to get the text things for it as well. Is that it would generate the feed, and then it would first have person 1 and person 2, and then you could train the algorithm and then say, no, person 1 is Colin, person 2 is Eddie. and then it would be like, oh, okay, because you told me that, I know all of these I know everything from that place forward. I know the voice pattern of these two people. I know that they're distinct. And then you could go in and click words where it would highlight these words. It's like, I was confused what this word was, and you'd click it and say, the thing would be, I'm calling it I. That's fucking crazy. It would ask, the program would ask, it's like, I'm confused about this word, and it's like, okay, no, that is the, like, I was saying the, and it's like, okay, now that you told me that, I know that he says the a little weird, so I'm going to go and fix everything in the transcript. That's crazy. Yeah. So it was learning the things as it was getting some feedback, which is absolutely insane. And it's a app on the internet that's one of these like sort of freemium, like free for a certain amount of uses. So I'll link to them because it's pretty bananas how good it is.
Well, okay, that's a pretty good answer to the question. For me, and I distinctly remember it when it came out, and I was kind of blown away. It was when I think it was the iPhone 4S, S being for for Siri, and I can't even remember when that was. It might have been like 2011, 2012, something like that.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, something around that. And I was blown away, like literally blown away. Not that obviously machine learning, as we learned prior to today, that it's obviously
new to the audience,
started well beyond that. So, but for me, that moment, I was like, wow, we are now using like this virtual artificial intelligence program to now cater to our needs. And then it's going to tie into the next question that I'm going to ask you, this whole data-driven this highway that we're trying to create with this artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all the data that it's retaining, to your point with the Facebook newsfeed. So when you look at it, that context, like all the questions that we ask Siri on a daily basis, and I'll be honest, I'm not one to use Siri that often, but I know a lot of people who do. So when you ask a basic question like, where's the most local Tim Hortons? Like that question alone, okay, you're more of a Tim Hortons guy. You're going to get popped up with a ton of Tim Hortons on your Facebook news feed with your Google and your, any cookies that you have. Hey, where's the nearest steakhouse restaurant? You're going to get bombarded with all that kind of, like, literally we are feeding this never-ending machine all kinds of data by demographic, by geographical location. And it's crazy because at the time it came out, I was like, this is cool. You take a few steps back, now that we know what we know now, and you're like, wow, it's this giant snowball is just going to keep growing and growing. Honestly, we're creating this like digital wallet with our phones, and it kind of scares the crap out of me to think that my phone knows me more than majority of the people I know. It's got the Face ID, like the Face app that just came out. It's got my information. It's got my credit cards. It knows what age I am, what apps I use. For the love of God, it has my location services on. It knows my daily routine where I wake up. Hey, it's going to take you half an hour to get to work.
Yeah, no, there's and Apple and Google have taken a philosophically different position on this machine learning stuff, where because Google is a advertising company first, which might be surprising to people. I think of Google as search, but really the only reason they're doing search is to get it, and Gmail and everything that they do is to get a better picture on you so that they can serve better ads over their ad network. That proposition is actually getting more interesting now that realize how powerful the data that they're creating could be, and how it could be weaponized. Maybe we should just do like a quick definition on what we're talking about with, and because I think. I want to talk specifically about machine learning, which is these. So okay, let's back up even further. So like an algorithm is a mathematical or computer program sequence that sort of sorts data. And so Google's original search engine was an algorithm, and the way that they sorted search queries was by how many links and how much authority the page had because of how many links it has. Now they use a machine learning algorithm which takes the data and writes its own algorithm. So machine learning takes a data set and then takes a objective, which let's go with the Google search thing, which is someone clicks a result and they're happy with that result, so they don't back out of the page. They got the result that they want, and then it writes an algorithm that's constantly evolving and changing to optimize for that scenario. And it's just unbelievable that's possible. We're so used to computers saying like computer programmers like type in the code acts exactly predictably. If you know the inputs, you know the outputs. Now we're talking about computer programs which are writing their own code and their own algorithms, where we're getting into they're doing funny and unpredictable and useful things that we wouldn't otherwise know how to do.
And that's going to tie in right to my next point about the creation of these neural networks that are these computer systems that act, just no different than a human brain or a nervous system. And we keep feeding it this endless data-driven, we have so much. First of all, technology has advanced so much that not that artificial machine learning was new. Didn't come up a few years ago. It's been existing for, I don't know, what was the 70s or 80s. It just at the time, there wasn't enough computational power to really push the way it was today. Now you look at what before what a USB stick would be to now what a USB stick is. That just goes to show how much computational power and data we can really retain
for an inexpensive cost.
Exactly. And that ties in perfectly with the poker machine that they were able to fix it with at what was $120 cost or something like that.
But it wasn't running on some crazy mainframe. It was running on like a very simple simulated desktop computer. Exactly.
And so that these neural networks that we're creating, we have the computational power now to support it. And literally, when you think of how data is being shared with technology that we have every day, from social media to technology like phones to anything that you can possibly think of, there's endless amount of data, and people don't really realize how much data can be indirectly given off,
throwing off.
Like even a simple search execution is going to dictate and show a lot about your personality, your character, and a lot of people wouldn't think that way. But, me searching a barbecue midsummer is going to show that clearly I like to be outside. I like to have a barbecue grill. I'm probably a preferred grill person versus anything else. Probably get showcased kind of meats on sale from Fortino's or all kinds of stuff. And Amazon's going to start showing me outdoor stuff. Along with the barbecue, I'm going to get a camping chair and outdoor gear and all kinds of stuff that I get bombarded with, all from a simple search execution. So these neural networks are exploding a lot quicker than we can probably imagine, which is the part that's kind of scary. And I think you and I talked about this. There's some people that are really excited with this, and there's certain people that, powerful individuals that are a little bit against it. Like Elon Musk is one of them, and he's probably on the forefront of a lot of revolutionary technology, right? So it's scary. It's really scary at the same time, to be honest.
Yeah, it can be really useful if it's aligned with our interest. I was listening to an author of a book who was talking about how the movement of your mouse could be predictive of neurological disease like Parkinson's or Lou Gehrig's disease or something like that. Because the shuddering and shaking may be a very subtle difference that's not noticeable to you, but in aggregate might be able to be diagnostic. And he was saying that sort of two scenarios. Scenario A is your Mac or whatever says hey, not to alarm you, but you might have this disease, like might want to do some screening tests, or better yet, it alerts your family physician or something like that, and and everything's fine. But scenario B is that some ad network uses click tracking or mouse tracking and now knows you have a disease before you do, and then starts selling that information to insurance providers or pharmaceutical companies or something like that.
That's terrible.
So it's a good thing when it's aligned with our interests, but it's not a good thing when it's sort of one-sided and you're on the wrong side. I think that's the other thing that Elon Musk is really worried about, because he's a big supporter of the Open AI project, which is a nonprofit that just has a commitment to open sourcing all of its the programs and stuff that it creates. Because if a nation state like the US or China or whatever has artificial intelligence, and another nation state has artificial intelligence, like that's fine. But the few years where one nation state has it and the others doesn't, like they're going to have a humongous advantage over that. Just like world domination level of advantage. And the same goes with companies. Like if a company is able to be predictive in a way that their competition is not, they're just going to run away with the market, right? Like it's just it's a little. That's where the sort of dystopian stuff comes.
And that's it.
Go ahead.
Sorry, that was going to lead into my point that we have the forefront runners of the kind of AI world. You got like Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and you got all these companies that I can't even recall where I read it, but it was, I think in 2014 or 2015, it was around $6 billion was invested in AI. So you got companies like Google, Microsoft, Facebook that are arguably never going to die because they've invested so much in this machine learning, creating these neural networks that are literally going to be it's already at a point where they're self-sustained. Like, I don't really think that you're going to need to have programmers or what do we call it? What was the term coined? Machine learning engineers. Yeah. You're not even going to need those guys anymore, because these machines, these algorithms are going to be self-sustaining and self-diagnosing. Yeah. That is so going to keep feeding. And honestly, I know we joked about this earlier, but my biggest fear is literally thinking like iRobot style. And I don't want to be Will Smith, but that's kind of the way we're heading right now. And it really scares the crap out of me. Yeah,
the neural network or whatever deciding that it knows your interest better than you know your interest.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize that their phone knows more about them than they do. Knows more about them than mom and your dad and your brother. Yeah. Like, literally, if you gave me one of my friends' phones, and I were to search through their apps, their search history, I'd learn more about them than I ever have. And now you add in their wallets. So you got their ID, you got the Face app, which is their identification. You got literally your device has you in a digital format.
Yeah, which is why it's so important that these things are protected and can't be rifled around with by law enforcement or something like that, because it's just a wealth of information.
So go ahead. I was going to ask me so that whole Face app saga, did you see that happen?
No. The Face app, yes. Whether it was Russian,
yeah. So you saw that, how it kind of just exploded in like celebrities and athletes, and everyone was doing it. Yep. And then this whole huge privacy concern was kind of just thrown out there and be like, you should stop immediately. Stop using the Face app. Like, you were literally handing your facial identity to third-party providers. Yeah. And it was crazy because, again, you don't think about it till up front. And I'll be honest with you, that was kind of in the back of my head when it first came out. Yeah. My first thing was like, wow, this is actually a little creepy. But no one knows about it. Like, not that everyone's naive, but they just don't think about it when they use the app.
Yeah, they don't think about where the data is going.
Exactly,
Mhm.
and that's what's scary. Like when you think about where the information is going,
Yeah.
that's a huge red flag, and I think that would deter a lot of people from using it. But
Yeah.
no one's paying attention to it.
Let's so maybe we'll do a little bit more background on the Face app. So I guess it was an app that you could download, and it had a machine learning trained algorithm that well, a couple of them. I guess that thing, it could make you look old, it could change your gender, like sort of interesting things that I went through social media really quickly because they were really interesting. But yeah, like you said, they basically have a huge database of all the faces around the world and linked to probably some personal identifiable information, which is pretty scary.
Yeah, and that's, again, you don't think about it now, short term, like, it's not a big deal, it's a fun app. Long term, we're giving a lot of information away that, we may not even realize until later down the road.
Yeah. A tangent on the Face app thing. Did you hear about the I don't even remember the name of the app, and probably I wouldn't say it if I had it. It was like a nude app where you could feed a picture of somebody well, actually, no, it wasn't even just somebody. You could feed a picture of a clothed woman, and it would render a naked body over top of them. So you got an approximation of what they would look like nude. And
oh my God! Really?
These journalists, like the company was pretty incognito, but these journalists tracked it down to a place in some place in like Estonia or something like that, and they're like, "Oh, this isn't hurting anybody. We know it's a little questionable, but it's not like it's the real person's body." And then a few weeks later, after the internet got on them and they were actually exposed, these people, they're like, "Yeah, this is a horrible idea." Oh no, their first explanation was, "Yeah, this is bad, but we're good people and we're going to do this first because we know there's bad people and they're going to someone's eventually going to make this app because it's actually fairly straightforward."
Yeah.
And then the other thing that's like the Face ID is the deep fakes. Do you know much about that?
No, the deep fix?
Deep fakes. So
deep fakes, no.
So if you have a large data set of somebody's face, like an actor or an actress, you can feed that into an open source algorithm and it will understand that it's like, okay, I have a good understanding of what makes Keanu Reeves look like Keanu Reeves, or what makes Arnold Schwarzenegger look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah. And then it can map those features onto another video that you have. So people have done some pretty crazy, amazing things with actually those three people, or Arnold Schwarzenegger, Keanu Reeves, and Donald Trump, and a lot of others.
Yeah, I was going to say Donald Trump I've definitely seen.
Yeah.
I actually wasn't familiar with the term deepfake, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And Donald Trump is like on the front line of everything that I see that's a deepfake.
Yeah. Sorry, go on. And it does a better job than anybody could imagine. There's a special effects studio on YouTube called Corridor Digital who made a do you remember the Mummy, the movie? What was it? The Mummy of the Scorpion King movie? Yeah,
with The Rock.
Yeah. With Rock.
Brendan Fraser. That's an old.
It has this horrible scene at the end where
you see The Rock for the first time, right?
You've seen him as like a warrior, but then he comes out as this half scorpion, half man, and he looks just awful. Yeah. And then so these people improve the scene by putting a deep fake face on the CGI body, and it already improved it like tenfold just by having that. It actually was better at rendering the face than the special effects. So.
Well, actually, that reminds me that the corridor crew that you were talking about, the video,
Yeah.
and when they how they break down the face app and they look at it from a biometric standpoint to really see how it works.
Yeah.
It's crazy how they were able to create a face out of nothing more than a two-dimensional drawing, a vague drawing whiteboard. It was like just I can't even recall what it was. Just eyebrows and two eyes.
Yep.
I think they sketched in the ears, and the machine was able to fill in the rest just from those small cues.
Mm-hmm.
The machine was able to pick up that it was a face,
Mm-hmm.
and I think even colored it in to being not even like was a Caucasian male. I think.
Yeah, I think it lightened. I think it lightened the whiteboard with some light pink.
Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah,
crazy to see that the machine was able to fill that in with nothing more than a few dots, an eye, and then the eyebrows. It was crazy.
Yeah, no, and it's crazy to get an insight on what that face app was doing, and so it was taking like reference points on the face, which they had drawn out on the whiteboard, like eyes, nose, mouth, eyebrows, chin line, and then it had a data set of like, here's what makes old people look old, like crow's lines on the
hair,
things, mustache, like wrinkles on the neck. And you wouldn't even think about these things as a human, but give it a big enough data set and an algorithm, a self-learning algorithm, a neural net can figure this stuff out. And it's so creepy. And then once you have that algorithm, then you can run it on a phone. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah. So that's kind of remind me to I guess my next question was going to be people that are on the front line of this, because we know that Microsoft, you got Bill Gates, you got Elon Musk, you got Jeff Bezos. How much responsibility do you think these guys have for being at the forefront of machine learning? Creating these machine learning engineers, creating these neural networks that obviously are at this point, growing on their own. Like these guys probably have so much burden on their shoulders that they're going above and beyond just the business standpoint, but they're literally like refacing how things are going to be 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't have a really good answer to that question, but I do think that they do have quite a bit of responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. And I think we've already seen a little bit of that with Mark Zuckerberg on Facebook. It is to me, at least, it was pretty clear that some of the election of Donald Trump and just the sort of general global push to nationalism and extremism rests with the Facebook algorithm, because nobody typed in any code that said to make people angry and divisive, but these social media machine learning ends up having that effect, because sensationalized people that are incensed, like happy, sad, like any of it, are engaged with these social media platforms.
100%.
If you're whether you're like rah Trump or whether you're completely triggered with Trump, if you're writing a comment, like an angry comment with your like uncle's post about that, like that's vaguely racist, like you're engaged in the platform, and that was the intent. That like the algorithm, all it was doing was doing what Facebook wanted, which was to increase the engagement on its platform. And unbeknownst to any, even with the best intentions, it ended up making people really divided, because the divided, angered people spent time on the platforms. And so the algorithms, like in that, that Will Smith thing, it's like it's kind of you don't know what you like the iRobot. It's like you can't be trusted with knowing what you want. So I'll be the all overseeing eye. And so I don't think that Mark Zuckerberg needs to answer for anything, but he does have a responsibility to learn from that and then put some measures in place and questions and transparency around this self-learning and AI that goes into Facebook, so that it doesn't. These people, we're not going against our best interest, and I'm not saying that. That I don't know. If you're a Trump supporter, I'm not saying that that was the only thing going on with his election. But when you see the whole world going to more divisive policies and more and seemingly more divided than ever, there's something going on, and I think that a lot of it has to do with social media, and a lot of what's in social media is so driven by AI that there's some responsibility there.
Oh, for sure. Like it not to veer away from artificial intelligence and machine learning, but I remember reading an article on the entire Black Lives Matter movement, and a lot of that came from Trump being an idiot for what he is and creating that divide. But one of the topics of the article, they specifically spoke to Facebook and creating that amplified divide, as you so call it.
Yep, that's a good term.
And even though there is a divide, it's very apparent. You see it everywhere. It was crazy to see that just having one person share, or one person like, or one person comment, that the reality was you would get 10 people across that would. Sorry, hang on, my dog's
okay.
crazy. You would have 10 people that would read it, and those 15 and 20 and so on and so forth, but it's not really as large in volume as you think it was. Someone would read it and be like, wow, this is just going crazy on my newsfeed, everyone keeps talking about it, and so on and so forth. But the reality is, it's just the 15, 10 people that you're connected to, that your algorithm's showing you, hey, Steve liked this article, or Steve commented on this, or whatever. So you think it's actually blown up to be a lot bigger than what it is, but in reality, it's not.
Yeah. And
you have this amplified divide that looks a lot larger in scale, but it's actually not the case.
Yeah, no, you can when you post something on social media, you can take the perspective of the sort of AI and algorithm. If somebody was an editor and they were like, okay, I'm not going to put this piece of content, I'm not going to distribute this piece of content because it's divisive or angry or racist or whatever. But to an AI that doesn't have any of those values, all it sees is a piece of content that's getting likes and shares and comments and all of that stuff. So it's like, oh, this is exactly what people want. This is exactly what keeps people on the platform. So I'm going to distribute that. So it's not that it's immoral, it's amoral. That's
a good one, yeah.
But I don't know what the answer to that is. Like, you wouldn't want a AI that you've trained with your morals and values and coming in and deciding what. Well, maybe that's exactly what's happening, but
that's exactly what's happening. Yeah.
Either way, but it's so challenging because it's so different than what we're used to, because we're used to so much predictability. Like when Facebook came out, when Twitter came out, you put something into Facebook, all your friends would see it at various stages. Where nowadays, you put something into Facebook, it'll say, okay, I know that like Steve and Bob and Sally really engage with Eddie's posts, so they get it. Uncle Steve likes stuff about barbecues, so he gets it. But everybody else, if they scroll down enough, further enough, maybe it'll find it, but it's not. They're not going to surface it to those people. And that sort of intermediary action is pretty powerful. Like that's controlling what people see.
It's crazy, and that's the kind of the future that we're going to have to deal with, especially in future generations, as these neural networks grow and these machine learnings become more advanced.
And there's even more data to train them on.
And that's the scary part, is that we're only you're going to see instead of solar panel generated farm fields, you're going to see farm fields full of just data storage and warehouses to be able to house all this information.
Yeah. I just want to end on one sort of point of hope. I can't remember the university, but there was a university medical center who fed in a huge data set of lung MRIs, MRIs, X-rays, like medical imaging, and it said these lungs are healthy lungs. These lungs are of people that develop lung cancer. And the AI was able to see patterns that oncologists couldn't see, radiologists couldn't see. They're saying like even though you don't see something, like there's something in this little swirl in this pattern that every person that has this type of cancer is also showing. And so they're like, again, this stuff can be very interesting and powerful. But again, it just you need to be very, very careful with it. Yeah,
I know. It's sad, but that's just the reality of, like you said, it could be either good or it could be very bad, but we gotta determine that sooner rather than later as these things become more advanced, which is really scary.
Yep. Oh well.
Not much we can do about it. We're just talking about it.
Well, we always got like lots of stuff to talk about with this, and we're going to see this stuff more and more, and talk about it more and more.
Yeah, for sure.
Very awesome, man. Well, I'll talk to you next week.
Yep. On to the next conversation. See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Unobstructed Podcast. Links to the stories we talked about can be found at unobstructedpodcast.com. If you are not subscribed, please consider subscribing. If you are a regular listener, a 5-star review would help us find new listeners. Until next time, keep breaking boundaries.